staying on the subject of education, you speak about as well pornography in that as well. So I think that's a blurry one for me as well, because I think some form of regulation is needed for pornography to prevent young people, because I think more and more young people, especially boys, are getting their sexual education from online pornography, which can have a lot of negative effects, such as the like some of the storylines are problematic, and that women are usually the submissive, and stuff like addiction, stuff it can do to your brain, and just like the idea that that's what sex should be like. And I think boys can misinterpret that, and I think I wouldn't ever advocate that we get rid of pornography or anything like that, but at least something needs to change. I'm not quite sure what that is, but I think something needs to change with that.
I think education's the answer. I'm glad that you mentioned pornography in the context of sex education, because I think it is sex education. I think, unfortunately, most of it is really bad sex education. I think it sends, extremely destructive and sometimes misogynist messages about what sex is and can be. And I'll be very honest with you, I'm really glad internet porn didn't exist when I was coming up, because I think I would have watched it all the time. I mean, when I was 16 years old, I had different life goals, but I would say like seeing naked women was definitely near the top, And of course, we had Playboy and Penthouse and things that were stored under people's beds at homes, but that was small potatoes, right? And I'm really glad it didn't exist. I think I would have watched it all the time, and I think it would have fucked me up. But what do we do about it? The last thing I think we want, again, is some government agency deciding what's like too awful to be on the internet. Now, just to be clear, obviously anything involving underage people should be regulated and must be illegal and is illegal everywhere. That's a whole other subject. But now I'm talking about consenting adults, right? Let's remember that since you're talking from the UK, in the United States, you couldn't get a real copy of Lady Chatterley's Lover until about 1959. So that's a story I relate in the book. Like, I come home from school holding Lady Chatterley's Lover, and my dad just laughs, and he's like, when I was a kid, I had to get a samizdat. I had to get an underground copy of that, like this one that was like circulated, sort of like Playboy and Penthouse, right? This is a real danger. Once you start to swing that axe, what's going to be cut? The argument for removing Lady Chatterley's Lover was exactly the same as the argument for removing internet porn. It was that this is going to mess up young people's minds. And again, that's not something I want the state to do. What I do want the state to do via its public schools is present a different way of thinking about sex. And I think there's some schools that have started to do that. Internet porn is with us, right? You can bemoan that, as I do, right? But you cannot deny that, okay? The only interesting question is what to do about it. And again, back to, the bromide that you mentioned about the answer to bad speech being better speech. I think the answer to bad sex ed, which is what porn is better sex ed, And some of the private schools or independent schools in the United States are doing that. And I think to very, very good effect. Describing what's happening in these films, the kids have already seen and just say, okay, what's up with that? Like, why are these people doing that? And why are so many people watching? And what are they learning? Right? That's sex ed, what I just described, and that's what we need.